I know a lot of people think I lost my mind and I went crazy. I went full Kanye West, making White History Month, but understand the only non-white people that I see that worship white supremacy are the ones who have never studied history. The only white people that I see obsessed with white supremacy are the ones who do not study history. I have seen one statement that was made by a conservative young woman that was saying, you may think that all our boyfriends are uneducated, but our boyfriends know history better than anybody else. Your boyfriends study history. I'm taking this from the young woman, the young queen, Flower Tower. White Americans are having a hard time facing reality. You're not European royalty, you're the peasants. And I think this is a thing that white people do with themselves, is when it's the highest of the high of white people, that's all white people. When it's the lowest of the low of white people, that's an exception. Even though the grand majority are behaving like the so-called exception of the lowest white people. The best of black people are exceptions. Entire black civilizations, brown skin, red skin civilizations, Asiatic African civilizations attributed to whiteness. So obviously, since everything is white, everyone was white, every white people invented Jesus, we need to study white history. Because obviously the problem is that we haven't looked into their history to understand what happened before colonialism to make them this way. To be so detached from reality that you will only tell history from the story of the richest, wealthiest white people, but you will ignore the everyday lives of the grand majority of Europeans to feel superior in a broken culture that has destroyed the entire planet. We need to tell the truth about white people because they have lied. Their entire system is built upon them lying about their history. I am sure that for every country on the planet, the grand majority of the wealthiest, richest, most powerful, influential people had a great life. I'm sure there's a lot to study. I'm sure there's a lot to understand. But when we're talking about the best civilization, the best culture, the most historic contributions, why are we looking at the one single culture with the greatest disparity between the rich and the poor that's been that way the entire time that they've been a color option in the game? It's only been about 3,000 years that there have been white people. There's been millions of years of non-white people. Civilization-wise, you might have about 3,000 to 5,000 years of white civilization. You have 40,000 to 100,000 years of non-white African, Asiatic African civilizations. The Bible that everyone worships takes place in Africa and takes place in Middle East and Africa. If you want to call it Middle Eastern Asia, I'm not going to play semantics with you. The Middle East. If you want to just say all life comes from the Middle East, I'm not gonna hush nails with you. You can have that one too. We were still all the same skin color. We were still all basically the same phenotype. But I will give that to you. That's fine. They weren't white. They didn't look like these people. The reality of whiteness is a group of people that have been abused, marginalized, and brainwashed for thousands of years, like cattle, before the idea of chattel slavery in America had existed. The suffering that we have gone through is poignant, it's meaningful, but it is a reflection of how advanced the indigenous cultures were, how advanced the African cultures were for the actual humans that exist on the planet. Not for the aristocracy, not for the nobility, not for the richest and the most powerful. How these non-white cultures fostered all of their people, the collective. And the one civilization that prioritized its aristocracy, a series of revolutions, violent revolutions, a series of violent civil wars, murdering and killing other white people. And the only thing that you can say that you did to advance your civilization is that you stopped killing and enslaving other Europeans and you started killing and enslaving non-white people. And that's the best civilization on the planet, is the one that depends upon dehumanization, degradation, and destruction. Stealing, killing, and destroying like the devil, but you call yourself Christian. We got to tell the truth. When you stop falling for the lies, you stop falling for the bullshit. It don't got to be critical race theory. It don't got to be critical Nazi theory either. If you've lived with a Nazi understanding of America, a Nazi understanding of history, a Nazi understanding of non-white people for as long as I have, I think it's time to study and understand the history of the Nazi Americans. It's time to study and understand the history of the European Neanderthal descendants, the European Neanderthal diaspora. Why do they think that they're so great? Let's study it. We don't have to debate. We don't have to bicker. We're not dealing with them. Let them take this and make it into their own. They worship a bunch of Nazis and then they expose themselves, right? There's no loss in this for us. Either they take this and they expose themselves as Nazis. They expose themselves as racists. They expose that they don't have heroes. They have serial killers. They don't have role models. They have sociopaths. They don't have leaders. They have tyrants and fascists. And let it be shown, this is all that their culture ever was. This was never a culture built upon refinement. This was never a culture built upon technological advancement. This was always a bunch of Vikings and savages murdering and killing each other in the snow. And they stopped killing each other in the snow long enough to kill people with the actual resources, the actual land, the actual abundance, the actual human capital. They just stopped killing other Europeans and they started murdering non-white people. They had to continue killing the Europeans that were darker skinned. They had to completely dissociate themselves from the majority of Europe. You have Western Europe and Eastern Europe, because the Eastern Europeans that are the closest to where civilization has started and look like the people who were originally on the planet aren't at the fight for being European. They got to fight to be a NATO. They got to fight to be considered ally. What do they got to fight? They got to fight blackness. They have to fight the dark-skinned people of their community. They go country to country and they divide people through colorism, and then they enforce law through racism. That's not an advanced civilization. That's like a bunch of kids, and you have the ethical governance of a high schooler. You go to a new land and you say, oh, you look like us. They don't look like us. Let's kill them all. Let's kill them all and take all their shit. And then I'm going to kill you and take your shit because you're still way darker than I am. But you're lighter than them, so maybe I won't kill some of your women. And then I'll sleep with the women so I can make more light-skinned babies. And then all of you all can die. How's that sound? That's not an advanced culture and civilization. You are murdering each other. If you haven't played the game Civilizations, you've been working on this domination victory the entire time that you've been on this planet. It is not technological advancement that has gotten you here. It was invented by the Arabs. It was invented by the Middle Easterns. It was here before you were even a civilization. I do not understand the cognitive dissonance that many of these young white people live in. But what I can't understand is if you feel neglected by society, you feel ignored by society, you feel like your problems aren't getting attention. I do understand what it's like to feel envious and jealous if another group of people in the exact same situation that you find yourself in are getting all the attention, and your very real needs, your very real suffering, your very real pain and hurt is being neglected. But you need to take that up with the white people that have been controlling other white people for thousands of years. You can't continue to just take that out on non-white people and pretend like you don't look retarded. You look stupid. How many thousands of years do the white peasantry, the white peons, the white serfdom, how long do poor white people have to be manipulated by rich white people telling them it's everybody else but the rich whites? How long? I'm not doing this because I hate white people. I'm not doing this because I'm a racist. I've grown up around white people my entire life, and I see this miasmic cloud of destruction over the head of many of these white children, not over racism, not over sexism, but classism. And the topic of classism gets ignored. The topic of elitism and bigotry gets ignored to focus on all these phenotypical, stereotypical issues that people can't control. People can't control being born male or woman. People can't control being born with their skin color, but people can control white collar crime. People can control being a fucking pedophile. People can control getting some fucking therapy and getting some help. People can control their votes. So be very mindful of the people that want that control. Be very mindful of the people willing to take that control away from you. Be very mindful of the people who want to think for you. I don't want to think for you. I need your help. I really do. I need your help. I need you to make your own videos. I need you to do your own research. I need you to educate your following base. This isn't about me getting the credit for this. You take the credit. You say you invented it. I don't give a fuck. I really don't give a fuck. You say you invented it. I don't give a shit. We need to educate people about white history because the majority of Americans are poor white people who have never learned their real history. The grand majority are poor white people who've been manipulated, who've been enslaved. At least you don't want to say enslaved. They've been indentured servants to white aristocracy for thousands of years. If you truly want to be set free as a non-white person, that pathway to freedom is going to be through educating yourself, through the true identity of your abuser. Because once you learn more about the narcissistic abuse of racism, the narcissistic psychopathic abuse of racism, once you learn more about what creates the narcissism, the societal narcissism of American racism, you can begin to heal from the narcissistic abuse. You can begin to heal because you can see, oh, well, this is where this is. And I'll tell you, too, and there's a lot of stuff, it may not fucking matter to you what the fuck your abuser went through. But I feel like it matters to you what happened to you, why it happened to you, and where the behavior comes from. So then you can at least prevent it within yourself, within your children. So we don't raise more serial killers. We don't raise more psychopaths obsessed with hoarding. We don't raise more sociopaths obsessed with attention and people who think that helping other people is evil. But people who are leading war senselessly, people who are hoarding wealth, people who are underpaying people to become filthy rich, overcharging for products while overcharging the same people. You live in a very evil, fucked up society, white people. And it's the cognitive dissonance that really prevents the human evolution here, because it's you all who know that you're lying, but you would rather live inside of the lie than to admit that you ever lied to begin with.